UnoSys is a simple piece of software that you can download from the UnoSys website. So here I can download my own unique UnoSys node for this computer. And you can install it. It's very simple to install. You just ask for where you want to install it and go. That installs the software and creates a service running as unosys.processor. You can see that if I go and look in the services and refresh here. You'll see a UnoSys processor now running, and it's running as that user. That user is just a new user that was created. It's local to this computer, and it has no special rights other than to be able to access the UnoSys install directory. You can find the UnoSys directory wherever you installed it. Here under GoGetter, UnoSys processor. You can see that it's not a very large piece of software. That's about it. Total size here is about 18 megs. Pretty small by today's standards. And with that running, if I take a look at the task manager, we'll see the UnoSys running, and it's currently consuming about 30 megs. Very small by comparison to modern applications. So a very small piece of software. It's also designed to run on all of the common platforms today, whether that's Windows or Linux or iOS or Android. And because it's written in .NET, which under Microsoft's new .NET Core initiatives is running pretty much everywhere today, including Raspberry Pis, for example, smaller devices, which means UnoSys is well poised because of its small size to potentially be installed on an IoT device in the future. So if you open up Windows Explorer, you can see that one of the things UnoSys installs, if I expand this, there's a U drive. And if I right-click on that U drive and show properties, you can see that it's an NTFS drive. It's a normal Windows-looking drive, but it has an enormous size. This is 8 EBs, exabytes. An exabyte is 1,000,000 terabytes. It's a big number. Try and think about that for a moment. And we can create a drive that size, at least in terms of the way it looks to Windows, and offer it up to anyone using UnoSys. Remember, the idea here is UnoSys is a single computer with a single massive hard drive. So opening that up, you can see that we've got an empty drive other than this UnoSys email, which I'll come back to in a little bit. So that's a folder, a standard Windows folder. So let's copy some data onto it just to make sure it works. What I can do is bring up a DOS box, and I'm on this D drive here, and I can do a dir just real quick star dot star, and I can pipe that to u:/a.txt. So that'll create a file called a.txt out onto the U drive. Still working on refreshing, but there's the file. And if I open it up, you'll see the contents of my directory, just as we saw it. The directory listing here. So that's great. What about a larger file? So let's go and get something a little bigger. How about 2 files here? I'll get how about a movie and my logo. Copy those and drop them in here. And after they're finished copying over, we can open one up. And it reveals my logo as you expected. And if I open up the movie off the U drive as well. So it's a standard drive in every way. And I'll just stop that. What's interesting, however, is that these files don't exist on this computer. And they don't exist on any server, in one particular server in the form of a traditional file server. All right, they exist on the UnoSys drive in block format, and it's spread out across whatever size of your storage array you're using to back the UnoSys operating system. So to demonstrate that, let me go over to another computer that's also running the UnoSys processor, and let's go open up a Windows Explorer, and let's go to the U drive, and you'll see our files copied there just a moment ago. We can look at the text file. We can also look at the logo. It doesn't look like we'll be able to play the video, but because the media file isn't recognized. But nonetheless, that you trust me that is just the movie file itself. Um, so we can, there's the image coming up in Paint this time. And it doesn't look like we'll be able to play the movie just only because that this computer doesn't recognize that particular app. But that would play the movie as well. It's the exact same file. So that file doesn't exist here. It doesn't exist over on the other machine. It exists in block form distributed across the storage array, and it's being put back together in parallel. Think BitTorrent here in terms of how we pull it down. But unlike BitTorrent, we also write it in parallel in block form. So it's being written in red at the block level across a storage array of arbitrary size. So just to complete the scenario here, I can likewise do a dir start.star and store that to the U drive, pipe that to the U drive in the form of b.text. And there's B, and we can open it up. And that's a different directory structure for a larger directory. And switching back over to the first machine and going to our U drive, you'll see that B is there now, just written a few moments ago. So at first blush, this is nothing too exciting. I mean, storage has been done to death. But what I really want to drive home here is that this is a shared local drive. Local in the sense that each UnoSys node thinks this drive is local to them. It's one massive drive, and everybody's sharing it. So, and this is the point from which we can start to do some interesting things, like completely get rid of the notion of a server. So to demonstrate this point, let me do this. Let me bring up Outlook. And I have set up in Outlook an account. Let me show it to you. So I'm just using an off-the-shelf mail reader. You could use any mail reader you want. But I've created an account for an email address called rod@test.com. Now, I don't own test.com as a domain. What I'm doing is I'm pointing that SMTP server and the POP3 server to local host. So the servers, the POP3 and the SMTP servers, are being implemented by the UnoSys operating system, which is inside the UnoSys processor that's running as a service, as I've shown you. So what I've done is I've simply set up, and it knows how to speak POP3 and SMTP. So what I can do here then is with this set up, I can go ahead and create a new email. Let me just send it to myself. I can make up any email address I want as long as it's legit. In other words, I don't have to own the domain. And let's just run a test. And let's send that. So you can see it in my out basket, and it's gone, and it should show up in my send port as having been sent. So if I turn around now and go and receive mail, you can see I now have a new email in my inbox for rod@test.com, and this is the email that was just sent. So what happened there? Well, if we go back to our U drive and I go into UnoSys email, you will see that this the directory was just created momentarily. It's still the same time. Inside that, there's a file that was just created, and if I open that up, you will in fact find the email that was sent as a MIME message. So we're kind of cheating in that we're pointing Outlook or the mail client to a local set of servers, and we are using the shared hard drives, that is the U drive, to store this information as just a folder structure. Now, to get more interesting, let's go back into Outlook and let's send a new email. This time let's send it to rod@demo.com. I've set rod at demo.com up on the other UnoSys node with a different email reader. And I'll just want to demonstrate that I can actually send an email across the internet, quote unquote, um, using only local servers. All right, now that's a pretty significant achievement, as it turns out. So I'll say this is another test. Let's put an attachment on here just to show we can. That'll do, a zip file. And it's been sent. So let's go ahead and switch over to the other computer and launch the email reader there. I'm just using the EM client. That's a popular email reader. And just to show you that I've done pretty much the same thing there. I've gone into accounts and I've gone and created a rod at demo.com account. And once again, it's pointing at the local host for the UnoSys running on this machine. So, well, we can see that we've already got the emails come through, and we can open up that zip file. So they're complete with attachments and so on. And just to show you the round trip, I can respond back to rod.test. Which will send it in the outbox as sent. Come back over to the other machine and go ahead and fetch any email that's waiting for me now. And there it is, right back at you. So we're able to send email between two parties, both on the UnoSys platform, over the internet, without them actually having to put their mail in a trusted third-party email server up in the cloud. I think that's pretty significant. Because we didn't touch the clients, we're using the same protocols that are there. We're just leveraging the fact that we have a shared massive hard drive on which to deploy the data for any application. To give you just another idea of this notion of getting rid of servers, let's try something totally different. Let me shut down Outlook here, and I'm going to go find a website, a set of website files. I'm going to copy them onto the U drive. This is UnoNet, a concept that we're playing around with here. And what I want to do is put that onto the U drive. It's just a series of files for a very small website. The thinking here is, what would happen if we were able to get rid of web servers altogether? I mean, after all, why do you go to a web server? It's just to get files and return them back to a browser. Why not deploy all those files on this common drive? So deployment would be just a matter of copying files to your local U drive, and anyone else in a web browser could browse them, requiring no server in between, in the same way that we got rid of the email server. So this UnoNet folder just contains some a simple index.html file and some images and so forth, a standard website. What I want to try to do, though, is come up with a more seamless experience. Just as Outlook was a client, so is a web browser. So if I bring up Internet Explorer, what we've done is created a little plugin, a so-called asynchronous moniker plugin or protocol plugin called UnoSys. And the idea here, instead of saying HTTP or www, we say UnoSys, and we specify a file. And what happens is it knows to go to a well-known directory root on the U drive and serve up those files. So this is the UnoNet website that we put together. It's just a simple website we put together with Mozilla. And as you can see, it's just serving up pages. But what's interesting here is we've told Internet Explorer, in this case, to use our special plugin to load those files not by going to a URL out on the internet to a web server, but simply off the file system itself. And if that plugin was put onto the other machine, you'd get the exact same experience there. I won't bother showing that, but you get the idea.